On to a different presentation from Footlocker. So we're going to be looking at how the candidate experience has evolved to the employee experience. I'm going to be welcoming Esteve Hartensveld, who's the Senior Manager for Talent Acquisition for EMEA at Footlocker, who's going to take us through this. Again, talking about how the experience has changed throughout the pandemic. What's really super important is that at the end we get some great questions in to put Steve under pressure. I'm only joking there, Steve, to ensure that we can have your questions answered, and you get that amazing interaction that HRcoreLAB is famous for. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Really looking forward to the presentation. Over to you, and I'll be back with about 5 minutes to go to grill you on the questions.
Thank you, Colin, for this nice introduction. Well, I must be totally transparent here. It almost feels that I'm part of your team already because I'm half Spanish. My mom was from Barcelona, and the background that you can see is from our flagship store in Plaza Catalunya. So I'm trying to pitch in and to make it a little bit more like it was before, when we could go to Barcelona and visit each other and see each other in real life. Before I get going, I want to thank Jeremy and Sophia for really great presentation, some really good insights, and we're taking notes as always. And also, to be on the safe side, I asked my team also to join. So if there are no questions, they probably will be able to filter in some questions just to get things started. So without further ado, I want to tell you guys a little bit more about what Footlocker has been doing the last few years on the candidate experience, and also how this impacts the employee experience. I will be talking mainly from a European perspective. Although we are a global company headquartered in New York with over 50,000 employees in 28 countries, with 2,900 stores, I want to make it a little bit more impactful for the European organization. But a lot of stuff that I will show you today has been done with a great team in the US, be it Christiane and others. So I can't take the credit for this. This is really a group effort. So just to tell you a little bit more about our organization here, what we're trying to do at Footlocker is really to inspire and empower youth culture. We do it in different ways. One of the ways that you see behind us is really create an environment where we can come together and not only have really cool products around us, but also interact in a different way. And one thing that you will see throughout my presentation is that we try to have the candidate or the customer in the middle of our processes. I think we're doing it quite a good job, but there's always room for improvement. And this presentation will also be an opportunity to show you that we don't always get everything right, and that you always have to work on it. Even if this is in your mission statement, you still have to work on it every day. So just to get some figures out there, we do see that there's a direct connection between what happens before you become an employee at Footlocker, and you see that 87% of employees are less likely to leave a company when they are engaged. And one of the things that you see in talent acquisition is that you do all the hard work, you get that unicorn candidate, and they leave within an X amount of months. And then everybody goes, oh, what happened here? So we kind of identified some key parts to that journey that would help you to retain those people for longer term and have them be really successful. I want to talk about the three kind of pivotal moments that we've seen in the last few years that has resulted in us changing our employee or candidate experience majorly. It all started with our Reimagine TA project that started in 2020, where we looked at our whole talent acquisition lifecycle. So from the early inception of a job description to really the onboarding part. Everything that we're doing today is built on that huge project, which took many months, many people across the globe, across functions to get where we are right now. And full transparency, also we're using iSIMS as an ATS. Maybe that's one of the questions. So that's something that also helps us go forward in this process and how we evolve. The second game changer, and we're not unique here, was COVID, or is COVID. Closing the offices, having people work from home. I also started this job from home, which was a really interesting experience. And thirdly, the phrase that unfortunately you see more and more is the Great Resignation. So in these times, be it on COVID or other matters, it is a very challenging times. And how do we as Footlocker deal with this? And what kind of measures do we put in place to hopefully be not part of the statistics? So let me kind of delve into the Reimagine GA part and look at the major parts that we kind of reinvented within our talent acquisition community. So we looked from intake to sourcing to screening to job offer to onboarding. These were the major parts of the project. We developed different work streams and kind of took everything apart. It's like a big Lego set. You take it apart and then look, okay, what do we really need to make it work again? And this resulted in a few really important improvements, I would say, within Footlocker, especially looking at our partnerships with HR and also with our hiring managers. And people that know me always joke, oh, you always use your triangle, which is the business, HR, and TA, which I firmly believe need to be working together to really take that next step in candidate experience, in hiring process, being really competitive, and have a really good proposition to the market. So as many organizations, we used, in this case, SharePoint to really develop a dedicated acquisition site where we had a one-stop shop for all information you need for every step of the recruitment process. Those 4 steps you'll see on the slide: be pre-work intake, interviews, offer, pre-boarding, and new hire experience, and then the dedicated a part of that site for the hiring manager. Any question they may have, be from how do I interview or how do I develop a good job description, it's all in there. Also with the HRBP to make sure that all the relevant information is gathered and all processes are visible. And last but not least, the recruiter that has a guidebook to initiate the process in a uniform manner, being leveraging Teams for certain kind of parts of the process, and having all the information in one place. What we saw is that people know it's there, but they just needed to also be reminded of what it can offer them. And we keep updating this, right? So any new documents that come, any updating the processes, it's all there. And it's a great repository, I would say, for new people in entering the organization, because these are the global processes that we developed and can be shared. So this was a huge task for a lot of people. So I'm grateful that that work has been done, but it doesn't really stop there. And my next kind of point will show this, that when in 2020 it started small, we thought, well, we'll stay home for a while and then go back to the office. It changed the landscape completely. What we saw is that, and by the way, by the end of this month, we're going back to the office here in the Netherlands, in Vianen, where our European headquarters are. And it will be the first time in, now for me, almost a year and a half that I will see my fellow colleagues. I've seen a few already, to be honest, but it will be in 18 months the first time that I will see those people that I've been talking to for 18 months on Teams. So really exciting, but also a very new experience for people because they haven't been to the office yet. So it's a really interesting times, I would say. One of the things that we saw during COVID is that we needed to adapt to the new circumstances. So looking at the old way of doing, which probably a lot of companies were doing, is having those on-site interviews, seeing the office, getting a tour, getting a sense on what kind of coffee they're brewing, to influence your decision making. Because it's sometimes just the little things that you need to factor in to decide for going for one employer or another. And what we saw was also an opportunity to then go, okay, we can't have in-person meetings anymore, or we don't know when we can have them again. But what are the factors that will make for great candidate experience during a Teams call? And that started just with a really easy, I would say, guide for candidates is relax. It's going to be okay. If something happens, it's part of the process. If somebody is at your door and to deliver a package, it's okay. But be prepared, right? So we gave them some good tips on how to prepare for the interview and also kind of say, don't panic, it's going to be all right. But same for hiring managers. They needed also some guidance on, okay, what happens if somebody has a Wi-Fi problem, or how should I cope with certain kind of situations? And it was really insightful for a lot of managers to see, well, it's so handy to have these tips in place because, this is also new for us. It makes me also to be a more relaxed interviewer, less focused on all the things around it, and having more attention to the candidate. So that was really a great way where, as a team, we came together from the US, from EMEA side, also from the Asia Pac to come in and bring that knowledge on board and produce some really great materials. Additionally, we created for every location in Europe a special information pack so that they could see how the office looked like when we would go back. Then at least they know, oh, this is the workplace, some general information about the company, and also what kind of benefits we offer, and how do I get to the office. So really an extra element to create a bit more sense of belonging to the organization instead of just Googling stuff. Something that we created for this year, and I'll touch upon the different personas, was also our working from home policy. So this is something we share with candidates, but obviously it also translates in how you as an employee feel at home within Footlocker. Is having a special allowance for certain kind of positions that cater to your additional cost, be it on your ADSL or the huge amount of coffee that you're taking now at home to offset those costs, based on your persona, and also a stipend. So a one-off payment. We give it every 3 years for you to buy something that improves your workplace at home. So be it a new chair or a stand, or you have a special equipment that you need to be able to have a better experience at home. This is something that we offer globally. And we've been using it now for a few months, and it's really great. And obviously, how do we go back to the office? So some parts of our company have been open. Obviously, the distribution centers have to be open. If not, no sneakers will go to our stores or to our customers. But our headquarters are now slowly opening up, and we want to make that experience also special. So I can't share too much, but we have some really cool stuff in mind to make that experience very exciting and having a very inclusive feel to them. So really looking forward to that at the end of the month. And just touching quickly on the personas that we've developed. I've seen them around already, so it shouldn't be that new. But for example, in our case, for TA, we have the hybrid persona, which means that we'll come to the office a few times in the week, but for the most part, we'll be working from home. And other parts of the organizations, for example, in the US, our talent acquisition team is fully remote. So they have a different kind of setup there. And then obviously you have people that need to be in the office for whatever reason. And those people have then the fully in office persona. All our employees get a kind of, if you have to work from home, a setup where you get all your peripherals in place to have a fully functional desktop experience. But yeah, we saw that we could do a little bit more. And that's also why we have that new policy in place. And I'll touch upon it later, and we'll have that conversation with our team members on how it's going. Do some things need to change? We came to these personas also through a global survey, so we really listened to our employees on what's your now favorite way of working, or what works best for you. And not for everybody, a fully remote situation would be ideal. For others, it is the way forward. So we really took some time to look at our people, to listen to them, and incorporate this when developing the personas. And it's not done, right? It's a conversation you'll always be having on what works best for you. There needs to be some leniency, I would say, from manager also to adopt this new way of working. To instead of butts on seats, you really look at trusting your employees on delivering it, and not having them on the work floor. So it's not only facilitating this, but it's also kind of changing how people perceive the old ways and how the new world looks like. And now I kind of want to touch upon the last part, which is called the Great Resignation. It's something that is worldwide. I talked to my wife earlier today, and if in her she's in the FCMG environment, so she knows all about also about hiring people, and they are experiencing the same issues there. And recent data came out that the stat now is that 30% of job seekers will leave their employment in 90 days if they have a really bad experience, or they have an experience that doesn't really follow what they expected from working at that company. Just to kind of drive the point home, what's happening right now, some figures that we got from the US, where you see that there's a lot of stress on the market, that people are on the move, and that engagement is at a very low rate. Luckily, I can say that it is much better at Footlocker, but again, you have to continue to work on it. It doesn't really, the 2020 playbook doesn't play in 2022. So just to kind of go to the last part of my presentation, how do we see that a great candidate experience influences an employee retention? It really starts on what kind of message do you put out there to the market? So spending a lot of time on the job description to make it as honest as possible, without only asking candidates if they have those qualifications, but also giving them a sense on where they would potentially work at. So also say, hey, this is what we can offer you, or this would be a great opportunity if you want to develop these and these skills or have this exposure. The application process means that if you don't have to go through hoops, and it's a very personal and inclusive process, where we really have a high touch attitude towards all our candidates. So not only the ones that get the job, but also the ones that don't make it. We should give them a great experience either way. And that's kind of where we need to be as transparent as possible on, hey, this is what you're going to expect in our process. These are the different stages. These are the timelines. And in an ideal world, we'll be finished around the 3rd or 4th week. Usually it doesn't work out that way because calendars can be a bit of a headache to combine, but be transparent along the way. Good process also means a speedy process. So it's not only that money walks, but it's also speed in the process. So I had a conversation with my team this morning where I said, invite me to a meeting and I'll be the bad guy or the bad cop with the hiring managers if needed, because we'll lose people in the process that are fantastic candidates, but have so many opportunities in the process with other companies, and you will lose them not because they're not interested, just because they're companies that work faster. As I told you, really make it a personal connection with the candidates, and be honest. This is what we are. This is what we do, and we want you to be you. So it's not about painting a perfect picture, because if it's a perfect picture, we wouldn't be hiring people, right? So there's always something that we need differently, perhaps, or that we're doing maybe in a way that could be done better, and that's why we need you to do this. But don't sugarcoat some stuff. It's really important that what you're telling them in the job description, during the interview stages, and also what they see when they start their first few weeks, it is a through line on what they've seen before, and it shouldn't be as big a surprise as you sometimes would see. And lastly, it's the offer phase. People find it always a little bit difficult, but we prefer to talk about it from the get-go, so that at least we know we're in the same ballpark. If not, then we need to shake hands and say, hey, maybe next time we'll come around and it will be the right fit. So these are really some major takeaways that we saw how candidate experience influences the employee retention and the employee experience, I would say. So I coined a new phrase, so I'm not sure if it's really a thing, but I would say the candidate employee experience. So to be very blunt, a crappy candidate experience translates into a really crappy employee experience. So if everything goes wrong, even your onboarding and nothing is there, you ain't gonna be happy when you start at Footlocker, and we get that. So it's very important that we connect those dots and keep communicating internally. The second phrase that I coined is the void, and the void is the moment that you sign your contract with us and then there's nothing, right? Until the week before you have to start, and you kind of go like, I guess I'm still gonna work there, but I haven't heard anything. So one of the things that we're doing here is just to have some fun there and say, hey, we're connecting with you, be it through your manager or colleagues, sending you a note or a LinkedIn invitation, but also giving you some good tips on Amazon or Netflix and Spotify that are maybe sports related. So some really good movies that you can see, just to get you in the mood for starting to join Netflix. To join Footlocker. And just to say, hey, we're still thinking about you. You're still on that journey to join with us, and we're looking forward to meet you. And the last part I would say is really when you get into our organization, that you have a solid onboarding guide that your hiring manager has prepared, where you for the first 45 days are kind of set. You know, these are the systems that you need to know. These are already the introductions that we have been scheduling for you, so that you can really hit the ground running and have close contact with our new employees to make sure that if anything is missing, we react right away. Usually the umbilical cord with recruiter is still there, so we do get a lot of calls from our candidates and now new hires. Hey, can you help me with this? And we're happy to help them, but ideally you want to get to a stage where that is no longer needed, and the onboarding is solid enough that people kind of know where to go to. And this is my last slide, so I have 4 minutes left, so I hope I've been not too long, very short. And this is, I think, also a point that Sophia made in the previous communication is ask for feedback, right? Send out those surveys to candidates, new hires, hiring managers. How did we do? How can we improve? And obviously the Net Promoter Score, right? Are you gonna brag about us, or are you gonna keep silent on that experience? Being even more candidate centric, and that's a tough one, right? Because hiring managers have a million things on their head, but still putting candidates front and center, and always saying, "Hey, we're looking also after the candidate experience. If it's not good, it's not gonna reflect well on us, and our candidates are also our customers, so it has a double impact." Onboard like a pro. It is not easy. There are a lot of moving parts, but being really diligent and following up and making sure that the things are done do make you differentiate from other companies we've seen. And last, and I think that's also kind of how I started, is you need to pivot. So things will change around you. The world is changing. Different generations will be entering the job market. You always need to be looking at your TA processes or processes in general, because if you stand still, you're going to lose. You're going to lose the candidates. You're not going to be competitive, and in the end of the day, as a company, you will not take those next steps. So that's one of the things that I want to instill also in the people that I work with, is having that change agility, especially in this time. So 2 minutes left, and that is my last slide. So I want to thank you for your attention.
Excellent, Steve. That was absolutely superb. I think we've got a time for a question or possibly two, depends how quick we get through them. And a couple have come in. So let's go to Joanna's question. First of all, what approach to remote onboarding the first weeks do you suggest for fully remote teams to ensure retention and new employee engagement? These are the people that are going to be based remotely, probably predominantly of all of their time.
It's a really good question, and it's a question that we ask our HR colleagues, and they ask us when we get a request for a fully remote role. How do we ensure employee engagement first? So the question is asked, does this need to be a remote role or not? If it is, then it's not only on TA, it sits together with HR and with the hiring managers. How do you ensure engagement within your team? And that can take many different forms, right? Be it in events or everyday stand-up meeting. What I do see is that one thing, if you're fully remote and you don't have that access to a headquarters, is you have to have a fantastic onboarding. You have to check every box on whatever they send to your way. It is working. You are connected. You have a really good branding around it. So at least have that welcoming sense. You want people to post that first day picture on LinkedIn saying, "Oh, I feel like I've been working here forever." But that goes away. That bliss. You need to then look at as a manager, as HR, on how do I keep that engagement going with my employees, be it on live events or offline events, and check in with them. I think more often than before. So these are things that we see at Footlocker a lot.
Fantastic. What a great answer, and incredible insight there, Steve. So look, we're at time, unfortunately. I'm sure we could spend hours just debating some of these big issues.
It's really cool, talent acquisition. What can I say? It's
absolutely, it's a cool place to be, and very, very always critical, in my honest opinion. But obviously, the events of the last 2 years have shown just how important everyone on this call is to their organisation. So, Steve, thank you so much for that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your great insight in your presentation. Thank you for supporting everyone on the call and HRcoreLAB. It's been a pleasure having you. And let's hope we'll all be together face to face in Barcelona next year. And maybe you can show us the sites if you know the place so well.
It's a data, Colin. I'll see you next year.
Fantastic. Look forward to it. So